In the dark world of robberies, murder between gangsters and police officers is always surrounded by the most twisted stories, and unless a witness unfolds what exactly happened, the public always sticks to the police side of story. For Nairobi's prettiest thug Paul Mwaniki's death was not different. The police and the witnesses' reports still differ to date. According to police, in the early hours of May 10, 2017, police officers in Kayole Estate, Nairobi, rushed to Lower Choka Kangundo Road. The officers had received a WhatsApp message from one of their colleagues that there were thugs who were robbing residents at the area and they were armed. Coincidentally, the description of the four thugs resembled the gangs that they had earlier arrested but had managed to escape to Manyanja Road. They carefully planned on how to ambush them because the gang was armed, intoxicated, and dangerous, at least according to the residents. Upon arrival, the four suspects tried to escape, but the officers fired in the air, ordering them to surrender. It is then at this point that the gang started firing back to the police, and the gun shooting war ensued for about 2 hours. Unfortunately, two members of the gang, a man and a woman, were fatally shot and killed, while the other two managed to escape on foot. According to police officers, the dead woman was still clutching a Beretta pistol which had 6 rounds of ammunition, and at the scene of crime there were 7 spent cartridges. It was later discovered that the woman was wife of a famous and notorious Gaza gang leader, Paul Mwaniki, also known as Mwanii's partner, who was still at large. Few minutes after shooting, a mysterious social media user, claiming to be a plainclothes police officer from Kayole, took to Facebook identifying the woman as Paul Mwaniki, popularly known as Claire at the Vibes. However, the eyewitnesses recounted a different story. So, what exactly happened and who is Paul Mwaniki? Let's find out. Claire Njoki Kibia was born on 2nd February 1999 in Kambirwa village, Murang'a County. Little is known about her childhood, but she was raised by her grandmother after her mother moved to Nairobi in search of greener pastures. Like any other child, Claire enrolled in a local school for her primary education, where she sat for her KCPE in 2012. In 2013, she joined Gikendo Secondary School in Murang'a for her secondary education. Few months after joining Form 1, Claire, together with 4 other girls, were involved in an indiscipline case which made Claire slap the class prefect for reporting them to the principal. The principal then punished all of them, but while the rest agreed, Claire refused and she dropped out of school. She then relocated to Kayole Estate in Nairobi to live with her mother. In Nairobi, she refused to go back to school and she opted to start doing menial jobs in the estate. Claire is described by those who knew her as kind, charming, tough and beautiful based on her looks. It is these qualities that captured the heart of Paul Mwaniki, popularly known as Mwanii, who also did menial jobs in the estate. He fell madly in love with Claire and the two started dating. Besides doing menial jobs, Mwanii was a notorious Gaza gang leader who operated in different estates in Nairobi. He was young and well-moneyed, and when he requested Claire to move in with him, she didn't think twice. The two settled in Kayole Estate, and Claire stopped doing the menial jobs. It is then at this point that Mwanii started recruiting Claire into the world of crime. Claire, who was tough and fearless, accepted to join the gang as she was tasked with carrying the guns for the gang because, as they said, it was so hard for police officers to suspect a lady of carrying guns. The gang terrorized Nairobi for years, and as their popularity grew, they also formed another gang and named it Warembo Sacco. The Warembo Sacco, just as the name suggests, comprised of women, mostly lovers to the men in Gaza gang, and they were mostly tasked with transporting guns, gathering information, taking food to their male counterparts who were in hiding, and in rare cases, taking part in robberies. The Warembo Sacco was headed by Claire because she was wife to Mwanii, the head of Gaza gang. The two groups murdered and robbed people of their belongings, but surprisingly, they openly bragged about it on their Facebook pages and accounts. Another thing, is that they openly celebrated whenever they killed a police officer, and oftenly they corrected the robbery statistics given out by police officers as shown here.
Hata serikali madogo imekosea. Wamesema ni watu 42 na ni watu 86.
The battle between the police and the gangs continued on Facebook, and the officers formed a hit squad tasked with identifying and unaliving all gangsters. Away from job, Crea was known as a vibrant young woman with multiple piercings and a silver tooth, which was part of the oath to all members of the gang. Her sense of fashion and her state for blonde hair wigs couldn't go unnoticed, making her the prettiest thug in Nairobi, as she was popularly referred to on social media. Sadly, as a gangster leader, Crea indulged in substance abuse and specifically hard drugs whenever she was idle. She started using them regularly, but she would use them in the company of her friends and far away from her husband. As we all know that a habit is a disease, Crea became an addict as she couldn't afford to hide them from her husband anymore. On the other side, Mwanii was a sober man who didn't want to even surround himself with people abusing hard drugs, as he considered them as snitches. When he found out that Crea was into hard drugs, the rift between them started. He tried convincing her to stop, but Crea didn't. In fact, sources said that she added more to her dosage. The quarrels between them continued for a while, and the two parted ways, with Mwanii opting to relocate far away from his wife. At this time, Crea turned to Mwanii's best friend, and they started a romantic relationship. Mwanii gunned down his best friend shortly after, because to him this was a betrayal and unacceptable. Nonetheless, he continued supporting Crea financially, but he chose not to let her know of his whereabouts. At this time, the gang murdered people anyhowly, but they turned into a killing spree on police officers so that they could restock their gun room, as evidenced by the following events. On January 14, 2017, Sergeant Asbel Kipkorir Rimo was shot dead by the gang shortly after dropping former Natural Resources PS Margaret Mwakima. The gang robbed him of his gun and went into hiding. 2 weeks later, they gunned down an administration police constable, Kennedy Nkune, who was attached to a senior state house officer, and they also robbed him of his gun. On November 30, 2016, Eston Dwiger, an AP assistant superintendent, was also shot dead, and the gang took his AK-47 before fleeing. Another incident was on February 14, 2016, when Mwanii and his accomplices shot dead former Moyale MP Philip Godana at his Syokimau residence. During this incident, the gangsters took cash, jewelry, laptops and mobile phones before escaping in a family car. Few days later, they abducted, assaulted, and unalived a teenage Form 3 student in Kayole. In another case, they robbed an M-Pesa agency in Kayole and shot dead the owner in presence of his wife and children. The reckless killings, which were committed in a span of 4 months, marked the beginning of a major crackdown, gunning for the heads of all the gang members by a highly specialized team. First, they identified all the names of the members of the gang, their close friends, and their family members. They then published 8 names as the most wanted criminals, and among them was Paul Mwaniki. The officers knew so well that if they could lure Crea with money, she would definitely reveal Mwanii's whereabouts, and started following her. They then issued several warnings to the gang, which was published on a Facebook page that was suspected to be owned by one of the officers from Kayole. On May 9, 2017, Crea, accompanied by 3 friends, went to Kayole Shopping Center to buy hard drugs that they used to consume. Upon arrival, their supplier informed them that it was out of stock. According to our sources, the 18-year-old Crea opted to go to a famous Nairobi market in search of this substance. They used motorbikes as their means of transport, and as they crossed the streets of Nairobi CBD, one of the police officers in the hit squad saw and positively identified them. He called his colleagues, and they ambushed Crea and the 3 men, gunning down Crea and her friend, whom they rode on the same motorbike, thinking that he was Mwanii. Few minutes later, A mysterious Facebook user, suspected to be a plainclothes officer from Kayore, took to Facebook to notify the public. Claire's death was welcomed with celebration from members of the public who were sick and tired of the bloody crimes in the capital. Days after her killing, her loving hubby Mwanii took to social media to taunt some officers of turning their wrath on his wife after failing to trace him. He said, and I quote, "Vini, Gare and Braki, you killed Claire because she refused to rat me out, then made it look like she was a criminal too. How do you take pride in knowing that you killed an innocent person and lied to Kenyans that you recovered weapons?" End of quote. In a different post, Mwanii vowed to revenge by killing the said officers. On May 18, 2017, Claire Njoki Kibia was laid to rest at her family's home in Kambirwa, Murang'a County. Her uncommon funeral was attended by close family members, few friends, and neighbors. Plainclothes officers were also present, building anxiety at the event. There were no written eulogy or funeral program, no tributes, and even the pastor who presided over the burial didn't introduce Claire's mother and her siblings, as the event was just carried out casually. What do you think of this story? Sadly, Claire's story shows the tough consequences of gang life. Even though it might seem exciting or give some status, it often ends in violence, fear, and being alone. Her funeral, which many friends kept out of fear, shows how being in a gang can push people away from their communities and loved ones. It reminds us that the benefits of gang life are short-lived and usually leads to sad and lonely endings. Our deepest condolences to family and friends, and may her soul rest in peace. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.